Hi, everybody, and happy April Fools, if one can consider it a happy day, April 1st. Normally, it's full of jokes, which quite frankly become annoying, especially when they're bordering on truth. Um, Someone said, the Martians landed yesterday, and with all the things happening in the world, I actually went for a second, COVID, sure, yeah, I guess so. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of April 1st. I wanted to do a video today and link it with a post that I'm writing on the Veeam Hub and on my YouTube channel about blogging. The reason is when I was at RSAC, and I did a post on that uh, beginning of the week, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, very interesting, exhausting. But during the RSAC conference, I actually was able to speak to someone who I have enormous respect for, who works in San Francisco in a very large IT company, in a position which I would call being in the know of things that are happening and what to expect. In other words, I kind of trust this person's opinion and um, was interested in a point of view. And the point of view, or the question that I asked was, do you think that blogging and content creation is dead or dying for obvious reasons that we all know, AI? And right off the bat, I'm going to say the answer was not very pleasant because I see certain things at my level, but this person sees things a lot higher. And the internet now is just swarming with AI created content. It's massive, it's overwhelming, it's flooding everything. What this is doing is two very bad things. And I'm not talking about just using AI. I think everyone's using AI now because it is a very powerful tool and can help you. I'm talking about when things are just produced entirely by AI and then thrown out onto the internet and someone puts their name under it. So, what is happening? First of all, we're being flooded with this. At times, it's good information because people will put it through one LLM and another LLM, a third LLM, so it gets filtered. But there's no individual style because each time it's different. It's very generic. And it's really nothing that someone can't do on their own. So let's take a step back. Why were blogs written in the first place? At least from my point of view, one of the reasons was if I need to learn how to do something on top of just going to the manual and the documentation, which would be very long and tedious, I'd like to go and see and read someone who's actually done it, who's gone through it. And that way you see the real picture from a human standpoint of sitting there and doing it. Whereas documentation just kind of dry and tells you the facts. You have to do both, but the blogs are very, very positive in that sense. So from that perspective, there's no need to read a blog because I can just go into any AI, powerful AI at least, and get the information. In fact, I can say, write me a blog, and I'll just read that. Why even search on the internet? So that's a problem. The second big problem is that the powers that be, and remember, very important, money rules everything, unfortunately, we like it or not. The powers that be will start saying, well, wait a minute, why do I need these content creators anyways? Why do I need these vanguards and these community members? We've got AI, we can do it that way. So it is a big danger, and there are people who are tempted to remove content altogether, at least not pay for it at all, or not give anyone kudos for doing it. So if you're in an organization and you're doing your day job, and on top of that you do blogging, and so you create a certain brand and status, that is being melted down horrifically by this AI avalanche which is hitting. So anyone who's just using AI to create full blogs, remember, you're really not just hurting yourself, you're hurting the community, and it's just a matter of time before you're eradicated with the rest of us. Using AI for bits and pieces to check, I get it. But complete content creation is a very slippery slope. So I was thinking about this and getting all depressed as usual. And I thought, well, wait a minute, what can we do? What works? And I was thinking that if you take the educational aspect of blogging, that's only one side of things. I mean, let's go back to the basics. When we were kids, or even maybe now, you often go to a classroom to get education, right? And people say it's old fashioned, whatever, but I don't think so. I think there's something more at play here. It's like people saying, oh, university degrees are useless now because of whatever. I think they're missing the point. And people who say that certifications are all useless and all this, I think they're missing the point. And the point is not so much in the end result, it is part of that, but the process. So first and foremost, when we went to school and we had a teacher in the room and we were all there, we're all communicating, it taught us many things. We learned what we were learning, but also we learned how to intercommunicate. We learned from a teacher who in 3D stood in front of us and talked to us, used expressions, did things like that. And it's been proven that that form of education helps enormously. This goes back just to the human experience. So replacing that with just talking to an LLM, I don't think that's going to work too well. I think it's going to diminish our capability to think. As far as, again, certifications and education in general, the point wasn't getting the university degree. The point was going through the process. And it's like a marathon. Getting the award at the end isn't the deal. It's all the discipline, the training, the coming up with systems that work for you because we're all individuals, things work differently, and then finishing. It was that whole thing because you take that as a template and then you can use it in other things in life. At least one of the things you can do. So I personally think that from an educational point of view, we just need to adjust. And the way to adjust this, in my view, is to create something called which it exists, but it doesn't exist together. In other words, fusing blogs with vlogs, right? To create the vlog. So vlog. It sounds like a Friday night at the pub. But what am I saying? Two things. If you write content and you genuinely write it, and you can use AI as well, but you've actually thought of the ideas, you thought of the direction, and you've put together things and you've actually done the work too, because it's one thing just to write about something abstractly. When it comes to IT, we really need to do the work as well. Write that down in content and then create a video with it to do two things. One, to explain to people who don't learn very well just off of text, so you can explain to it in person, like that teacher in the classroom. Also, you're proving that you genuinely know what you've written about, and it's adding an extra element, which I don't think AI can do, in the sense that I've seen the AI videos, and I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. Everything from weird muscle movements to strange sudden pronunciations of words to just looking at the eyes of the AI creatures, and there's just nothing there. So I suspect that people are going to learn still from people much better. So this is one aspect I'm countering against this AI slopathon, which you see all over the internet. That's the only way I think we're going to stay in the game and keep our brands. Otherwise, it's a slow progression downwards. People will say, well, since brand doesn't mean anything, human individual brands, then communities don't mean anything, do they? Right? No. Because, well, they don't have any value. I can go talk to the LLM. The critical question will be, and the one I hope will save us all, humanity, is that I can't see anyone. I've known quite a few rich people. I've never been rich myself. One thing I do know is they really like to control their money, right? They don't like to spend it and they like to control it. So I don't think they're going to want to hand over their financial decisions to an LLM ever. Okay, so that's one thing which might save us all. Now, that should trickle down to senior managers and whatnot. So as long as we keep control of that, we're fine. So the question is, how do we stay in the game as humans, mid-level professionals? And I think we have to think out of the box. We have to think of things that we do better than AI. And the one thing that we do better in AI, I'm pretty convinced, is deal with other human beings, especially in person. So when it comes to community in-person events are still something that cannot be done with AI. I remember I was working at one place during COVID, and they tried. There was this company that created a virtual party, and you'd go in and you had your screen and you'd walk around and you'd walk up to people and then you'd automatically join their conversation. And I mean, it was, and you'd get a drink at the bar and then, it was like one of those early video games back in the day. So that's what I recommend. But I really want to do this post to get other ideas from community members. First of all, first question, what do you think? How dangerous is this? How bad is it going to be for community and brands? Is blogging dead or is it evolving? That's first question. Second question, if you do think there's a threat of disappearing as an entity, communities and blogging, or if you think it's just doing serious damage, what do you propose? What ideas do you have to enhance our community experience and enhance are blogging or vlogging or podcasting or anything. What do we need to do to make this still viable, to make people choose us instead of the LLM? Keeping in mind that we're not as fast, we're not as seemingly perfect, although LLMs are by no means perfect, but the speed of their reactions is a lot faster. But then we have some things that it doesn't. And one of the things are little idiosyncrasies, little eccentricities, as you might say, right? So we're not perfect, we're imperfect, but sometimes people like imperfection, by the way. Not so much in their development plans or whatnot, but in the interaction with other humans. Why? Because it's mirroring ourselves, unless you, of course, think you're perfect. So these are the areas I'm trying to think about where we can keep ourselves going, where we can keep communities active and keep upper management in big companies, especially big tech companies, to still see the value in this. Now, it could be, by the way, that the person I was speaking to was overstating things. Right now, it's a little bit of a negative atmosphere because there have been a lot of layoffs, and some CEOs are claiming these are AI related, and some are saying that's an excuse, so I don't know. But I want to hear everyone's opinion, and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks.